Yeah. So my buddy Steve here brought some really good donuts, so we're going to share these with you right now. These are really good. You want to give them a promo?
Los Alamitos Donut, right across the street from Los Alamitos High School.
Wow.
Yeah, guy named Mike owns it. He's his family immigrated back in the 70s, and he's Vietnamese. Super nice guy. Great family.
Wow.
I've been going to that place for the past 15 years.
That's a great business, you know.
Yeah, I could imagine.
It's all cash. Yeah, it's good business.
Yeah, and they're extremely busy.
Wow.
But he flows a lot of cash through there.
All right, Steve, so how long has it been since I've seen you?
Oh, man, it's got to be like what? High school?
Yeah.
I remember high school. You graduated 81, right?
I left early. I'm a GED guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys were always into, like, heavy stuff, like serious stuff for kids. You know, I can't imagine what it was like growing up in that scenario because we were like wild children running the streets. And
You had a balanced home life, probably.
I call it mid-century dysfunctional. Right? It was like, it was like I had 3 older brothers and an older sister. I was the youngest.
Is his mic good? Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Mike's even though, where he's sitting, he's good? Okay, keep this going, by the way, Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was the youngest of 5, right? So I had to be the entertainer, right?
Yeah.
But that's why I think I kind of gravitated towards stage in high school. That was like my big jam was high school.
I'm trying to remember. Did you do any plays?
I did. I had the leads our senior year.
Who was the kid that was there that was a smaller guy? Do you remember who I'm talking about? Everybody loved him. He's really tiny.
Little Wayne Minicello?
Yeah, was that it?
That was Michelle's cousin in real life. First cousin.
You're kidding.
Nope. No, her grandfather, his brother, was Wayne's dad.
Do you talk to him anymore?
Nah, he just kind of, I've gravitated towards, away from everybody, you know,
Yeah.
from high school.
God, the Michelle thing, man.
But you know how it is, man, right? And you grow up, you just kind of lose touch with people.
Yeah. Well, it kills me because I was right around the corner from Michelle and her brother.
I remember I had to stake my claim with Michelle because you guys were, like I say, you guys were some handsome dudes. Right?
Oh, we weren't.
You're
anyway.
beautiful kids, and then as you grew up, you guys were just handsome.
Oh, no.
Studly, you know.
Listen to this guy.
No,
I'm
swear,
not paying
man.
about this. Listen to this guy. No, I appreciate it.
No, Michelle told me, she goes, Chris wants to take me flying. I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? You're not going flying with that guy. Just imagine that, right?
I was chasing Debbie Walden.
Oh, yeah. That was Michelle's best friend. And, you know, we recently lost Debbie, so.
Yeah, that killed me. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's tough, man. Sorry.
Yeah,
She was always such a sweetheart.
Yeah, she was. She broke my heart, man.
Yeah? Well, I mean, she was dating, you know, the wrestling champ
That's
of the
who she met,
world,
the Ray-
right?
Ray
Delmonico.
Delmonico, right.
Ray he was slated to go to the 1980 Olympics, but that's the year we boycotted.
Man, Ray was something else, man.
Something else. You should see his boys now.
Really?
He's got a son at the Coast Guard Academy.
Really?
Yeah. And he's a freshman, and he's just a beast. You know, I don't know where he's wrestling at, maybe like 135-ish,
Wow.
140-ish, I don't know, maybe a little more, but he's just an incredible wrestler. So he's got that to his boys, and his other son, that's little Ray, and then I think his other son's Brandon. And he's like a senior in high school, but he's getting all kinds of accolades. He's definitely a heavyweight. Amazing.
Yeah, that was something else, man. God, it's just scary how fast time goes, man. You know, so damn scary. So scary.
Yeah, definitely weird times, you know, how life progresses, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since coming from, seriously, this is literally the only time that you and I have ever talked.
Yeah.
You know, we ran in the same circles, knew the same people.
Yep.
I don't know, I saw you at a party at Brent Phillippe's. I don't know if you keep in contact with Brent and Aaron.
Mm-mm.
They live over in Cliff May Ranchos.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's been way too long. I think, yeah. And I think the connection was originally like Michelle, obviously.
Yeah.
That was event. That's kind of a tragic event. We don't have to get into that right now, but.
Oh, yeah, man. That just completely, you know, life going this way, right? And after that, 15 years ago, life is absolutely that way.
Yeah, a brief story, you guys. I grew up with Michelle, which Steve was married to for a while, and as a child, and she was killed here in that Seal Beach. It was considered a massacre.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the largest mass shooting in the history of Orange County.
Yeah. What year was it? I forgot.
2011.
Yeah, 2011. Yeah, I'll never
October
forget.
12th.
Yeah, she just cut my daughter's hair. I just went to dinner to catch up with her at Patty's over there, and I just couldn't believe, Yeah, first of all, I'm sorry. I know that that really complicated things for you back then. Now you're remarried and everything's great. And
Yeah, that definitely put a lot of strain on everybody, man. That's why everybody, all the decisions that were made, and people were initially were just in shock, right? And then as things progressed and it kind of fell out, right, it just took on its own life. I feel like I tried to talk to people about stuff, and then it was like, oh, you're the bad guy. You're a bad guy in this. You don't belong in any of the memorials, and people didn't want me coming to those. And we took Dom. We took the little boy they were fighting over, right? He came and lived with us for 5 years after that all happened.
that was a big deal.
It was a big deal, man.
What happened?
We
What
weren't
was the
equipped for
deal?
that, though, Chris. We were not.
Oh, who
We
is?
were not equipped for that, right? And everything, I did an interview with the paper at that time, the Orange County Register, and they were like, the reporters asking me, how are you guys going to do with all this? And I'm like, I don't know. We're a strong family. We'll get through it. I'm quoted in this article, and I look back at that, and I'm like, I was so full of shit.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was coming, and how this was going to evolve, and just the emotional toll that it took on everybody. Incredible.
What was the deal with the husband? What made him want to? Was he a mental case before?
I mean,
or
a lot
what?
of people don't know the whole real story, right? So he'd always battled like bipolar, I guess. He was diagnosed with bipolar, and he was supposed to be taking antipsychotics, which I guess he was off his meds. But the history with this guy was, he grew up in Seal Beach, kind of a wild child in the streets, but stayed in school. He was a pitcher at Wilson High School, baseball pitcher. His biological father played at USC with O.J. Simpson, of all people.
Really?
And that back in that era. Yeah, so he has that athletic gene in his family, but his dad went on and so I've read, right? This isn't anything I'm talking. This is public information, but his dad was highly addicted to narcotics, heroin, and he was in and out of rehab. And I can only imagine being a football player that could have started, with injuries, right? Like most addictions start in that kind of area. But yeah, so he ends up getting raised mostly by, now I'm talking about the shooter, he ends up getting raised by his grandfather.
Okay.
So he's got a lot of connections with the port. And I don't know if his grandfather, was in the shipping industry or whatever. But he ends up going down, and he's a tugboat captain. And when him and Michelle were married, after we had broken up, and Michelle and I were kind of cool. We went through our rough patch with the divorce, and we got in a good custody arrangement, and we were cool, right? The kids, I bought a house in LaSalle, and the kids live with us, and so we were cool. And this guy was doing this tugboat thing, and apparently he was pulling a ship, and he had a deckhand, 26-year-old single mother, as I understand it. And she was out in the back, and these lines that these tugboats hook into these ships, they're huge, right?
Yeah.
They're like as big around as our body. And I guess it got like a slack line or a taut line, and it snapped. And that thing snapped back at the tug and hit her. And the story told, I guess it killed her instantly. And she fell into the drink. And Scott saw this, right? He was trying to be a good guy. That's his deckhand, right? He dives in after her. And he ended up getting pinched between the ship and the tug and almost killed him. So he had disintegrated his hip, crushed him. So now here's this guy taking all these pain meds, on antipsychotics, extremely bipolar. Had an incident early on where child services from Orange County contacted me saying, hey, there's an incident with your kids. He was so bipolar, he had an incident where he was outside, where he was in the house, and him and Michelle were fighting, and my daughter was there. And he said he wanted to kill himself. And he had guns, obviously. And he apparently was, holding a gun to his head. And then so Michelle ran out of the house with Dominic, the baby, And my daughter was there, and to this day, she's like the mediator. She's literally a counselor, graduated from Cal State, Long Beach with a master's degree in counseling. But she mitigated that scene, right? She talked the guy down, at 11. So then the cops came, they took his guns for a year. And then, they talked to me about my daughter, and I'm just, so I called the guy back then, and I just said, hey, look, Scott, I understand how it is, excuse me, being married, right? Mm-hmm. We all have our fights, and our arguments and whatever. I go, but if my kids are ever there and you guys do this kind of shit, all you have to do is call me. You got my number. I don't care any time of day. I will come and pick up my kids. And then you guys can, I don't care.
Yeah.
Even at the time, you know, it sounds crass now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I hate saying it, but at the time I said, I don't care if you guys kill each other.
Yeah.
I just am concerned for my kids.
Yeah.
And that's, so whatever you guys do, that's not my business.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are my business. And he was just super apologetic, you know. He was just one of those personalities, you know. He could just be real personable and you know, easy to talk to and your best friend. And so I took him at his word, no, it'll never happen again, you know. A year later, he petitioned and got his guns back. And then, you know, the rest is history, right? They ended up splitting up. Michelle and him split up. And this guy, he had gotten with his grandfather's caretaker. That's who he ended up marrying. And she had inherited a sizable amount of his wealth, along with this guy, Scott. So they had this wealth combined, you know. And the funny thing, not funny, the tragic thing, you know, is this guy had like $1 million in the bank when he shot everybody. He had just gone through a custody issue with Michelle. And her and I had gone through all that, so she knew the ropes and knew the things, and she wanted to get to an agreement.
Yeah.
You know, she just wanted to get to an agreement. She wanted to live her life.
Yeah.
And I had talked to her a couple weeks earlier. I saw her and her boyfriend at the Eldo, you know, watching a White Boy James show. And I gave her my table because it was really packed. And after to buy her a drink, hey, can I buy you guys a drink? She's like, no, I can't drink. I'm in this custody battle. You know, this guy's crazy. I go, what do you mean? I go, come on. We had our crazy moments where we would argue. She goes, no, Steve, this is different. This guy is literally crazy. And I'll never forget that look and that conversation last time I spoke to her. So.
Yeah, I was in Palm Springs when I heard it. And I heard about the shooting in Seal Beach. Again, it was a massacre, and there was how many people?
8.
Yeah, 8 people. Everybody in the salon. He walked in, and did he shoot her first, or did he?
Yeah. Yeah, Christy Wilson, who was my best friend's girlfriend all through high school, Dwayne Heaton, if you remember Dwayne. But she was in the chair, and they had become, you know, good friends, and she was like supporting Michelle, and she was washing her hair. But he had called her earlier and asked to meet. And where I was going with that was the day before my daughter. I came home, and I've always kind of had this sense in my life, and I get deep into it with your brother Russ, who's a very cool guy. I had a sense that there was something in the air. You know, I sat out in my backyard. I have a little pool and it's jacuzzi, you know, and I had my feet up, and I was looking. It was just, I'll never forget. It was uncharacteristically calm, right? When you're raising kids and you're working and you're building your career. This was right before I was going to get that big international assignment, which I got, but I ended up giving up. We can get into that later. I just felt something coming. And my daughter came out. She got home from work. She was working 3 jobs at the time, just starting to take off. You know, she's just starting to find her way. Graduated college, still living with us. I was driving to L.A. for the marketing job, and I was doing other stuff like working at Barnes & Noble. And she was just in her hustle phase, you know, 25. And she comes out and she goes, hey, Dad, how you doing? I'm good, honey. What's going on? Oh, nothing, you know. Just want to let you know, Mom, she finished her court case with Scott. And I go, oh, good. You know, hopefully they find some peace, right? And she goes, nah, it's not good. I go, what do you mean? Because it's not good. Scott's not happy. I go, well, what happened? Well, you know, they got 50-50 custody, but Mom's got the primary. And then, you know, he's got to pay her like $1,500 a month. And I'm like, well, that's no big deal. You know, the guy's got plenty of money. He's got a lot of, he was disabled from that tugboat accident. So he could afford to pay that. Nah, he's just not happy. He's really upset. Mom's concerned. I go, really? I go, you got his number? Because remember, I had talked to him early on.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, Dad, I don't know. I've got being an old jarhead, you know, Marine, and then you knew me in high school, right? I was very quick to the punch, right? I would never shy away from a battle. And she's like, no, Dad, I know how you are. You know, you might get too intense with him. You might make it worse. And I said, okay, I don't have to call him. But I could just call him and tell him, man, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
It'll get better. It's not that big of a deal. You maybe even offer, you know, hey, man, if I can help, I want to call and talk anytime. I mean, I've been through all this. And that's the way I envisioned the call going. But my daughter she just knows intense, go to battle dad, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And, you know. And I still had that intensity even at, 48. I've lost all that now, though. But yeah, I just remember that moment. And my daughter and I talk about it all the time. And she has regret, too. She's like, I should have let you call him Dad. And I'm like, no, we can't go back there. Everything happened. And I was talking to Tony Rakakis, the DA at the time of Orange County. And I told him that story. And he's like, hey, man, I've been doing this for a long time. He goes, you give that guy a call in his state of mind, you don't know what he's going to do. Maybe all of a sudden you're on the hit list. Maybe all of a sudden you're a target. You're intervening. You're in this process. Maybe he involves you.
Wow, that's a good point.
So better you dodged a bullet, literally. Could be. So you kind of helped put my mind right.
Sure.
But yeah, that next day I was working and I was talking and I was getting ready to do a trip to Australia or something, one of these assignments that I was working on. And I got an email from my son who was working, Chad. He's a big filmmaker, really successful guy, lives up in Ojai, has a couple kids. But at the time, he was working at a place called Fuse Interactive down in Laguna Beach. And he had sent me an email, and he just said, help. And, I was always giving my son crap because it's always about Chad. And I'm like, whatever, I'm going on to do my thing. And then my wife, who we did not meet at work. She got hired at TRW back in 97. And her and I, she got all of her clearances, and we ended up working in the same closed area building. And she was down the hall. And she comes into the office, just kind of comes in, very uncharacteristic of her. And because I worked in a pretty serious office. And she pops her head and she looks in and she goes, Steve, we got to go. I go, what do you mean? We got to go. Just go. I had no idea what was going on. So.
I know it's hard, bro.
Yeah, hard is it's just a subjective word, right? It's just I've never really been talked about it that much. So, but
I really appreciate you sharing. I really do. She's a friend of mine as well. I knew the whole family. It's very tragic what you went through. And please, if it is too much, don't, please. But I want to be able to give a part of the segment. And even if I have to have you back, because I really love your career and we're going to talk, but I was thinking more, since we are on the subject, maybe we could make this kind of just to find a little memory too, to let people think and not forget, because we are in Seal Beach and it was a very tragic thing for Seal Beach. So you're doing a lot for Seal Beach as a healing too, I think, because there's a lot of people didn't really know. It was just that untold story and what happened with Dominic and kids. And again, if you don't mind, great, but I understand.
No, it was just leading into it, it washes over you, right? The emotion.
Yeah.
For me, anyways, it hits, but it's cathartic for me to talk about and to just kind of get it off.
Sure.
Just got to get it off me.
I really appreciate it, Steve. We really do. Everybody does that'll be watching this if you're comfortable.
No, Seal Beach Seal Beach didn't deserve this, right? Seal Beach is Little Mayberry, it's just, that's why my kids, I lived here for 5 years before we bought a house in LaSalle, and that's when I fell in love with the whole school district. And then my kids were junior lifeguards, did the whole trip. I could let them run the streets here, without worrying about them.
Yeah.
And my son became an avid skateboarder, surfer. He was a pro snowboarder in high school. It just kind of was a stepping stone for our whole family and our whole life. Michelle ended up coming down here and cutting hair. She originally was cutting over at Pacifico Style with Don Lopez, had a shop over there. And Randy and his wife Sandy, they decided to open their own shop, Salon Meritage.
Yeah.
And he pulled, a few of there was drama, right, when this all went down. But he pulled a few of the stylists from Pacifico Style over to Meritage.
Okay.
And that's when Michelle went with them. And
gotcha.
They were like family.
Yeah, they were. I remember everybody in there was very much like family. Was there anybody in the salon when he came in that survived that you were able to talk to get kind of a better picture?
Oh, yeah, it was horrifying. Yeah, it was absolutely horrifying. I talked to Lisa Powers, who's since passed, and she was at our house. After this all went down, right, after this all happened, everybody was in such shock. our house, in La Salle became like the central gathering point. I mean, her parents, Michelle's mom and her stepdad came there. Her brothers and sister came there, and all their siblings, all their children were there. My kids and all their friends, Ted and Chelsea, were both popular at La Salle. And so they had a lot of friends from high school showing. Our house was just Grand Central, right? It was just packed all the time for about 2 weeks straight. All we did was we were just cooking every night. Backyard, I have my backyard set up for pool and a fire pit and nice barbecue, and everybody just sat out there, and it was just all hours of the night. We just went for like a vigil for like 2 weeks, and Los Alamitos police knew what was going on. And after about 2 days of it, I knew this was a thing. A lot of cars, a lot of traffic, a lot of people. I went and talked to all my neighbors and told them what was going on, and everybody was cool. It's like this family's going through something,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just a weird time. I remember the day of, Adrienne had pulled me out, and we were getting in my car. I'm calling my daughter, and she was just paralyzed. She didn't know what to do. She's like, "Dad, this could be bad." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, hon. I can't." I go, "Can you drive?" "I don't know." And then I just kind of went into that dad. I'm like, "Honey, I just need you to get in your car and get to me. Just get to me. I'm out here. I'm at South Bay. I was working at Northrop Grumman at the time. I go, just get to me, and I'll get you to Seal." And she drove from L.A. somewhere and got to us. Then Adrienne drove her car, and she got into my car, and I was driving us home, or driving us to Seal. And we were just getting, listening to KNX News and listening to all of this going down, real-time reports. And it's just so surreal.
Did you know the condition at the time, or it was all up in the air? Nobody really.
So we got it in the car, driving. My brother's been a volunteer firefighter for Orange County for decades, and he still is. At 68, he's still a volunteer. He was there, and he knew all Seal Beach. His best friend's Joe Kalmick. If you know Joe, he's like the mayor of Seal Beach right now, but Joe's always had Main Street Art and Framing, and they were volunteers, firefighters, together. And we played softball, against the Seal Beach cops, firefighters and cops kind of a thing. So he knew all the cops. And he went over to the library where everybody was gathering, and he was talking to one of the guys. My son was in there with him. He grabbed Uncle Keith. They were in there, and I guess he had talked to one of the detectives, and he said, "Hey, man, they're not giving us any information. What's going on? My nephew here wants to know about his mom." And he just said, "Look, she didn't make it." And that's he got confirmation. So nobody knew. Nothing official had come out at that point. So then he called me. He said, "Hey, man, it's bad." So.
Man, did anybody walk away, Steve? I'm sorry, this is hard, man. I know. Did anybody walk away in there? Was anybody able to run and get out?
Yeah. There was one guy, Gordon. His name's Gordon, and I don't know Gordon's last name. Gallegos, I think. But to me, in all of this, in tragedy or in situations like this, heroes emerge. And to me, Gordon was a hero. Because he had grabbed Lisa at the time. She was like stunned, standing there watching as this guy's literally just blowing everybody away. He had a 44, a 40, and a 45. Just knockdown weapons, right? Just terrible stopping power. And he was just unleashing it on these poor people. And Gordon had grabbed Lisa, who was stunned, and pulled her all the way into the back, into the bathroom, and pulled her in. And then to hear Lisa tell this story, and we were in this group at my house, and everybody was just kind of talking, and Michelle's mother was just sitting there listening to this. And at one point, she's like just broke and just had to leave. She's had to walk away because Lisa she had to get it out. It's terrible, all the shooting. And Gordon pulled me into the bathroom, and he pushed me up against the sink, and he leaned up against the wall. And to have that mindset, the situational awareness, right? That's why I say Gordon, he was a hero, because he was thinking clearly, survive.
Yeah.
And he pushed her up against the wall, and apparently someone was outside of that door begging for their life. And then all they heard was the shots ring out. And Lisa explained, I just felt the debris hitting me in the back. And if we hadn't been pushed up against the sink, we would have been probably killed ourselves. Just to hear that, and then she explains it, it's like, yeah, we heard the shots, and then we didn't hear her begging for her life anymore. And then we saw underneath the door, the blood starts flowing under the door. And for her to just be able to, she had to get that out. She was just so horrified and just terrifying. It's like a bad dream. So those poor people just didn't stand a chance against this guy. And then the way the whole thing went down, he ended up leaving, and then he was firing more rounds. I mean, the whole thing started. The guy walked in. I was trying to get to that earlier, but Michelle walked over and said, Scott, you can't be here. And he literally, the words were, and that was quoted in one article that I read, was, well, this is the way you wanted it. And he pulled out his weapon and shot her point blank. And then Christy ran over. What did you do? And then he shot Christy. And then he just started unloading on anybody. So he had told all these folks, right, because this is a drama guy, and they're fighting, going through their divorce, and he would show up at their salon, and how these people are like family, and I admired that. Every time I go in there to the shop and see these guys, they're always friendly to me, but they would run Scott out, right? They would be like, yeah, you got to get out of here, man. This is a place of business. You can't be here, that kind of a thing. And he had said, F you people, I'm going to come back. I'm going to kill all of you, and he had leveled those threats.
Wow.
And unfortunately, none of that ever came out. It was a death penalty case. He should be on death row, in my opinion. And he knows it. The guy's got to know, right? You can't he destroyed lives, decimated all those families. And it's just such a ripple effect. But yeah, it's like, how do you come up with that conclusion? Well, I'm just going to shoot everybody.
Yeah, I heard he actually came out of the salon and then shot some guy that was in a car.
Yeah, I think it was Dave Collette. I think it was Dave was his name. And I'm sorry if anybody sees this and I don't get the name right. But the poor guy was just sitting in his car. He was retired, and I think he was an operator, back in the day. And he was just retired and was into the Land Rover Club, and he was going to go, into Patty's place. We had lunch like a couple times a week, and he was waiting to go into the restaurant to have lunch. He was just sitting there. And I think this guy was just so enthralled with himself in the moment, because he's very bipolar, right? And I think he was having a manic moment and was proud of himself and excited and saw another victim, someone else to shoot. Yeah, boom, boom. Yeah, I'm taking everybody out. That poor guy was just sitting in his car.
Did he kill that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Wow. I thought he was injured. But...
And then, he tries to justify it, and why'd you kill that guy? Well, I thought he was reaching for a gun. I thought Randy Phantom was going to try to stab me with his scissors, so I shot him. I didn't intend to kill everybody. He did exactly what he intended to do.
Yeah.
Vision Insights is the simplest, most powerful security guard management software. No long training, no complicated systems. Guards can start reporting in minutes. Train your teams with micro trainings, attaching video to individual checkpoints to walk them through sensitive procedures. Submit accurate reports every time with dynamic observations that automatically rewrite, categorize, and prioritize, removing human error. And grow your business with daily, monthly, and quarterly insights, the most advanced reports available today. Vision Insights, the simplest, most powerful way to report.
If you see the first mugshot picture that they published, he's just got this maniacal Joker smile, he just looks insane. His hair's all unkept and all everywhere, and he's just got this maniacal smile on his face, looking at the camera. And for some reason that picture got pulled. Maybe it's just too disturbing to the public.
Yeah.
But I never saw that picture again.
He didn't even run, did he? He just got in the car?
He got in his car at that point, in his truck, and he jumped in and drove through Seal Beach, and the calls had come in. There's a description was given of a white truck, and it's weird. He had the same Toyota Tundra, like maybe a year earlier, white with a white snug top shell, but he had racks on his truck, but it was the same truck, and he was driving through town, and they stopped him, and he had a bulletproof vest on, and he was just strapped, right? He had all the guns were with him, and they pulled him out of the car. And they had their guy. And unfortunately, when they put him in the cell, the holding cell, the Orange County DA at the time, and they're all good people. They're just trying to, the criminal justice system is just so, it's stacked against the cops and the district attorney. It's like the criminals have all these rights, which we should, but they put in an informant with him. And this informant got this, they got him taped him talking about it. And they figured they would need that, to get that murder conviction or that death penalty conviction. His intent was how they explained it. We need to have that. We needed to have that. But the guy had already confessed. You had the guy. Turns out that snitch, right, was corrupt somehow and had tainted every case that they used him on. I think eventually down the line that people got released, because they had used this guy to get convictions. Just a horrifying chain of events. So,
which pollutes that case, which gives him more of a break.
Yeah. So then he's got a really good public defender, and he ends up pleading guilty to all 8 murders. Yeah, I did it. I'm sorry. And in California, a death penalty case, it's 2 different trials. There's the criminal case, and then there's the death penalty phase, right? Criminal phase, death penalty phase. So you have to get the conviction for the criminal, and then it goes into that death penalty, a whole separate trial, different jury. I don't even know if maybe a different judge. I don't know. But just kind of blew their case, right? It drug on for 5 years, and all the families were just tired. It's like, God, they had lost their will to fight at this point, right? They're just trying to get on with their lives. It was just so brutal, just trying to carry this brick in your pocket. And so they all capitulated and said, just get a life without parole or whatever. Do that. And so that's where they went. He pleaded guilty, and then all the stuff started coming out about the snitch issue, and there's a really good video out there called Snitch Tank that tells the whole story of how this case, it's on YouTube, and how the whole case just kind of built and fell, and how it all wound up and why. So his rights were violated because of this informant in his cell. It wasn't due process, so they ended up throwing that out, right? So now it was like a civil rights case almost, right? His civil rights were violated. So they got the conviction, and that was their strategy, to get the conviction, and they go to determine if they're going to do the death penalty or not. And then at that point, everybody, like I said, they had lost their will. The families have a lot to say in situations like this. So they just said, okay, we're just going to go. We're not even going to go to trial. He's pled guilty. We're not going to go to the death penalty. We're just going to give him life without possibility of parole. And he's in San Quentin now. So General Pop. And, like I said, the guy had money. So I'm sure he's law enforcement. You know how it is. Guys in jail, if you've got money, you can buy whatever you need.
Yeah.
So scary, sad, frustrating. So,
man.
Yeah, I was getting into that ride home when I got that call from my brother, man. Probably, I've been asked before, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to do in your life? And it was my daughter's right next to me, and I just had to tell her, I'm sorry, honey, Mom's gone. And she's just like, her first words out of her mouth, I have to call Grandma. I'm like, well, okay. I was relieved to see that she didn't just immediately break,
right.
And she had that situational, like, she always thinking of others. And she calls her grandma. And she's like, Grandma? Sorry.
No, take your time. Take your time. It's a serious thing. Very tragic.
But yeah. She's like, Grandma, and she hands me the phone. I can't. So, to have to tell a mother that her child has just been killed.
Grandma didn't know anything at the time, did she?
She knew there was something going on.
But
None of the family, there was nothing official had come out.
So Butch, ain't nobody knew anything.
Nobody knew anything. It was just because of my brother's connection, and he just got a little sidebar with one of the cops that knew him and said, yeah, man, she's gone. And he told my son, and I'm just glad my brother was there to console my son. But then to hear Michelle's mom, and I'll never forget that sound, just that when you lose somebody that you love with all your heart.
Yeah, I've heard that scream before.
Yeah. So then everything was just fast forward from that point. It was all a blur. I don't even know how I got home. How I got into Seal Beach. You know, there's a picture of Chad and Chelsea embracing when they finally got to each other, and that was like one of the front page pictures. But it was dramatic. It was hard. Everybody was so confused and just scattering. And then in the midst of all this, all of a sudden, you know, Chelsea just has this epiphany, and she's like, "What about Dom?" You know, Dominic was over at McGaw School, you know, in class, and they pulled him from class, and I'm like, honey, I'll take you. Let's go get him. Let's go over to the school. And counselors had already pulled him aside, and they're already talking to him, and then Chelsea ended up going inside, and I'm waiting outside for them, and they were in there for about a half an hour. Then out walks this poor little 7-year-old kid, just bewildered. His mom dropped him off at school that morning, and here he is. What? Mom's gone and Dad hurt Mom? It was just horrible.
Wow. So you had the one daughter with Michelle.
Yeah, I have a son
And
and a
then
daughter.
Dom was with
Yeah, Dom was her and Scott.
Scott, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a big thing for you to take on Dom, too.
Well, I mean, my daughter was like, you know, she had pulled me aside at one point and just said, the families were all talking about it. You know, remember Craig?
Yeah.
A real good stand-up guy. He's out in Havasu, runs a great pool company, and just a great Craig, who kind of grew into being a really good leader, family man, you know, patriarchal kind of a guy. And he wanted to take Dom. So then Chelsea and Chad pulled me into my room, me and my wife Adrienne and I, and they said, hey, you guys have given us, you know, the ribbing about having grandkids and stuff, and this isn't the optimal situation, but maybe, you know, Chelsea wants to take Dom, and she explained to me that Mom had said if anything ever happened to her, she wanted me to take care of Dom. She had spoken those words to me. And I said, okay, hon, well, I don't know. I mean, if you're going to do all the heavy lifting here, I mean, you know, Adrienne and I are working. I'm traveling a lot for work, and you guys can live here. We'll fix up Chad's old room for Dom, and you know, we put some money into that room, and then at the time we were stretched to the hilt, right? We were kind of like, had just done a big remodel in our home, and I didn't have any money to speak of, any spare change laying around. So Joe, who was running Michelle's estate at that time, her stepdad, ended up kicking in like $1,500 or something. And I'm like, oh, cool. Bought the paint and the baseboards and the new closet doors and got them all fixed up. So we tried to make it a home for Dom. And we had a lot of support initially. I know we talked about it a little bit. We had a lot of people coming out of the woodwork. Hey, we want to help. We want to help. You know, hey, Dom, we want to take you here or do this for you. And it was really good at first. And this was after a couple of weeks or a few weeks, you know, and all the shock had kind of worn off, you know, and people get back to their lives. They get back to what they know. And it just kind of but we were with it every day. And I remember years later, a gal came up to me and said, oh, hey, Steve, how you doing? Yeah, I remember we were talking. He's like, I remember when that Seal Beach thing happened. And I go, you remember? I go, we still wake up with it every day. You know, it doesn't leave, you know. And all that support just kind of faded away. That was one of the heartbreaking things. But I don't blame, people want to live their lives. And that kind of heaviness, it destroys, it hurts. So people have to protect themselves. So I get it. Chelsea and I and Michelle's one of her best friends, Eileen Hanley, you know, Eileen Loveless now, and my neighbor. We were the ones that had to go clean out Michelle's house. There was nobody else showed up. All her family had gone back to their lives. You know, again, they were all in shock. I don't blame anybody for anything that they did in that situation. We were there for a reason, and we just tried to do what we could do I was just trying to help my kids get through it. And it was shocking, you know. I was in this state of mind of, you know, how do I grieve someone that I grew up with, someone that I was married with, had kids with? How do I grieve her? And then I have my wife now. If she sees me break, it's like, well, did you still love her? Or I had all these emotions running through me, right? I couldn't go through the full grieving process. So I just carried this crap. And over the years, you know, we've talked more and more about it. You know, my wife is she's Saint Adrienne. You know, she's just the one. So she's always been there for me, and she just listens, and she doesn't judge, and she knows what it's all about. And it's been tough on us personally, but it's not about us. And whenever I feel that feel sorry for myself kind of attitude, oh, why do you have to go through this? I think back and I just kind of like, you know, you can't, what these families went through what we're going through is nothing compared to losing a daughter, a son, you know, a dad, a mom, a mate, partner, a husband or a wife. It's just horrible. So I have a lot of leniency. I'm not gonna point fingers and get angry with anybody about how they processed it. Even her family. They made it kind of tough on my daughter. And she did it all. She did all the heavy lifting. And all they did was just kind of, again, because they were grieving and they were concerned, you know, but they were from afar. So they weren't as supportive as they could have been. And I'll leave it at that, right? I'm not going to trash talk them.
Yeah.
Because I don't blame them. Because Michelle was there. They all looked up to Michelle in that family. She was a successful one. You know, she was the beautiful one, the hairdresser, the charismatic one that everybody loved to be around, right? Everybody loved, you remember Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody loved to be around her. She was just a fun, engaging person and a light. And so what that did to her family, and then if them getting angry with us, me, or if I'm an outlet for that, good.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Sure. Yeah, everybody had those tragedy. I've had my fair share with our family for sure, but everybody handles it differently, and it's only natural. I mean, and not just the event itself. There's no equal. Emotions aren't like, well, your emotions need to be like my emotions. We all handle it different. You know, it's all how we were raised and how we take things and what we experience in life and all that.
I'm sorry about your dad. I'm sorry about your dad.
Oh,
you know,
no.
I know that was speaking of tragedy, right? To lose your father in a plane crash, right?
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, man.
No. It was a different scenario, but yeah, no, I appreciate that. But that was in '92. But yeah, I felt the same way. You know, it's funny thing is that I had Cindy and Michelle. We went out to dinner and we caught up because I knew Cindy. Cindy was her best friend, and it just seemed like it was probably like maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks after that or 3 weeks after that when that all went down, I just couldn't picture. In fact, I called Michelle's answering machine, and I got an answering machine, and luckily Joe called me,
Yeah.
her dad, and said, hey, just want to let you know, yeah, she didn't make it. And,
Right.
And I just want to give you a heads up. I'm making a lot of calls right now. And I said, gotcha.
Yeah, credit to Joe in that situation. He came in and was definitely the strength of doing that, the needed communications, and he kind of headed that up. Everybody else was just so broken and didn't know what to do. So he definitely took care of a lot of that stuff. He ended up getting a good lawyer and stuff for Dom, and people know what's going on with Dom.
Yeah.
And Dom's having his struggles now. He's going to struggle all his life. But he's just a good, gregarious guy. He works on a Duffy boat, London boats or whatever, down in the marina in Long Beach. And he's a good time Charlie kind of a guy. You know, I try to counsel him here and there, but I can't tell him what to do. All I know is he's a good person. I see him as a good person, and he's just got to carry this with him. He's got to figure out a way to grow into a man. And so he's struggling a little bit, but again, he's not a bad guy. Things could be so much different for him.
Yeah.
So he knows where we are. You know, Adrienne was very loving to him growing up, and he still looks to her sometimes to talk and that support.
Sure.
But yeah, so we went on. You know, we moved on through all that, and Chelsea went on to get her master's degree in counseling. Yeah, There's a surprise.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
She teaches. She's out in San Juan Capistrano now.
Think that was because of the event that got her?
Yeah. She's always been good. And when I first was telling you about how she talked the shooter out of killing himself that first time, she's good under pressure, and she's good when people are stressed, and under duress, kind of a thing. She knows how to keep her cool and reason with people. She's a very kind heart and strong. So counseling is definitely her field. And I just wish she could get a job closer to home.
Yeah.
She has to drive to San Juan Capistrano every day, and that takes a toll.
Oh, my gosh, man. Absolutely.
Literally and figuratively, right? She takes the toll roads.
Yeah, the family's been through a lot. They had Butch that passed away.
Butch passed away.
And then is Michelle's mom still? How's she doing?
She's, I guess, Chelsea, talks to her a lot, and stays in touch. And she had some health issues recently, but she's doing okay.
Okay.
She's hanging in there.
And Joe? Is Joe still around?
He's still hanging in there. That guy's, he's going to outlive us all. That guy's tough as nails. So Vietnam vet, he went through a lot. He was in those PT boats on the river. If you saw in Apocalypse Now, those guys were. He's definitely got some stories. A lot of citations for a lot of the hard work and the heavy lifting that he did in that boat behind the gun. So,
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, that guy's. I've always considered Joe somewhat of a hero, right? Despite our differences, and how he handled and how he treated my daughter. I have a little resentment towards that. But again, I always fall back to I can't judge what everybody was going through and how they reacted to all this. Everybody is doing the best that they can.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell myself every day, or I had to for years. It's been 15 years, and it just feels like yesterday. But I tell myself every day, just do the best you can, Steve. Right? Get up, make your bed.
Man. And yeah, I can see it. I can't thank you enough for sharing, especially the people here in Seal Beach. I know nobody really wants to bring up a horrible memory, but there's, just unanswered questions, because she was such a great girl in a small town. I go back today. I was talking to Steve, our engineer, today, and he remembers it, but it's just so vivid. Wow.
Yeah, when it hits close to home, you remember it more, right? But that's where I was shocked. Like 7 or 8 years after it had happened, we had that conversation, and they're like, "I remember when that happened. Oh, like it was just so." And I just looked at her point blank, and I said, "It's like it just happened yesterday." I kind of had like a moment. I'm like, "Is that weird?" Hearing you talk about it she goes, "Well, for me, it was years ago."
Steve, your memory, you're talking about me at 3. Your memory, your memory's so, you got such a great memory that this got to be like yesterday for you. And I can tell, when we're talking, I can see the emotion. It's like yesterday, and it's a big, there's so much you had to deal with. Not just trying to be the strong guy, family, just balance everything out. So,
it's tough, man. And it's just trying to carry I literally have guilt, right? How do you deal with that? And I've talked about it, but really, to share it here, it's like what I go through. What if I had been a better husband? I don't think about the great things that I've had with my wife, Adrienne, and how she I credit her with like saving my life and getting me back on track, right? Because I was unemployed when I met her, but I carry this guilt like, what if I had been a better husband to Michelle? And we didn't break up, and we had this.
Sure.
And then all these people wouldn't have been killed. It's my fault.
Yeah, you can go way back. I can see you doing that because you're a man's man. I can just totally see that. Have you, make it personal, because I do therapy. Has that helped you at all, or have you done therapy, or are you just trying to get through it?
I stopped. I went to some sessions at work, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have like an employee thing, but I had these high-level clearances, and I didn't want to jeopardize them. Right?
That's right.
So after like 10 sessions, the therapist at work was like, "Hey, you got PTSD, man. And it's pretty, I don't know how this is going to play out for you. So I'd like to refer you to outside. Company will cover it." Northrop was great. They were great to me. Very supportive. And they would have given me anything I needed. But, being the Marine.
Yep. I knew you were going there. You Marines, you guys are tough as hell, man.
I don't know about that, but
You are. They build you that way, man.
yeah.
You're a stud. But the other side, you got that big heart, dude. And you have that big heart, and you still have the emotion. It says a lot about your character to have the strength. And, nobody wants to see anybody sitting here hard. The fact that you can share that with me and people here is a very, very big deal. It shows your character, what a great guy you are.
Well,
It really does.
it's like therapy for me right now, man. I mean, the way you come across, Chris, you're very understanding, and you got a nice tone, right? A nice presence.
Oh, I appreciate that.
So it makes me able to talk. This is the most I've literally, this right now, after 15 years, is the most I've talked about it to anybody. So.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing. I really do. I think this would be huge.
It's just time, man.
Yeah, I know.
It's time. Yeah, I'm not looking for anything from the community or, and of course, anything that I say, right? And I've learned over the years, somehow someone will find fault in it. Someone will find, oh, why did he say that?
Oh, yeah.
That guy's no good. Yeah, it's just like all the people just throwing rocks, man.
Yeah.
Just gets old.
Yeah.
And so I just, I've been just put my head down and just go, right? And that's where I went in my career. I just buried myself in work. And they pulled that and that assignment was going to take me, that I was telling you about, that I kind of gave up at that point when this all went down. I was going to be running a crew that goes around the world and worked on equipment, maintained equipment and at certain, facilities around the world. And it's a really neat job. And that's about all I can talk about. I don't even want to get location specific, right? But other countries around the world. And it's like, yeah, we don't know if we want to put you in that. You got a lot going on at home, So they didn't put me in that. And then the counselor at work was like, yeah, you got PTSD pretty bad. And I was like, well, no, I think I'm okay. Talking to you did a lot better. And I'm a good actor, right? I was an actor in high school, right? I did all the plays and stuff, and I loved that. I was going to go into that, I thought. But my mom died when I was in high school, my senior year. Right?
Oh, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. What happened?
Yeah. Complications from diabetes.
Really?
She had arterial bypass surgery, and it was relatively new. And never, I tell people all the time, never have major operations or major procedures done during a holiday period, right? This was during Thanksgiving. The week before Thanksgiving, she had this done, like on a Monday, right? And then, Wednesday or Thursday, she was in intensive care. It was Wednesday, she was still in intensive care, and I went to see her at Long Beach Memorial. And I was getting really into school. I was in the choral group, and singing the madrigals. I was the manager for the madrigals, and that was like the touring competitive singing group at Lakewood High School. And then I was doing the plays. My mom was just tickled that I was into all that stuff because I was the baby.
Yeah.
My brothers had put her through hell, and my sister had put her through hell. And at this point, she was just so enthralled to see her son, involved in the arts and getting good grades and doing all that stuff, being involved. And I went to see her that Wednesday, and I was going down to San Onofre to go surfing for the weekend with my buddies. Parents were camping down there. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to go down surfing, camping, Mom. And she's like, oh, good. And we literally, everything you need to hear as a kid, right, as a son, my mom told me in that last conversation I had with her. And she literally said to me, so proud of you. I was 4 years after my next brother, right? So I was like a mistake. They used to joke about it, oh, Steven got lost coming out, and he finally showed up. And she goes, when you were born, I didn't know what I was going to do with you. It's like I had these kids, and so I was overwhelmed. And she goes, now I don't know what I'd do without you. So that's like a source of strength for me.
Yeah.
But you can see it still hurts.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I've never been a guy to hide. When I was a kid, I was very emotional, right? I feel, right? And if you're going to be an actor of any kind, if you can convey emotion, right, you have to. It's at the surface all the time. Heart's on the sleeve. And I remember as a kid, growing up with three big brothers, you had to fight or die. And then Lakewood was a tough town to grow up in back then, right? We're all the kids of the greatest generation, the World War II vets, you know, and the Korea vets.
Yep.
So all the dads were tough guys, hardened men. So we were just hard, tough kids growing up.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. It really explains it, doesn't it?
It does. Growing up in that era. And we were all boomers, right? We were at the end of the boomer spectrum. But
Yeah.
I just remember getting in fights when I was a kid, and I was just such an emotional kid. And that was like my defense mechanism. Crying, getting upset sometimes would save you from a beating. You know, oh, you can't beat the kid that's crying or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But then my brothers got me so toughened up, I'd get in a fight and I'd come home crying and be like, what happened? Why? Who beat you up? And I'm like, no, I won. Then my brothers would give me hell for, why are you crying then if you won? Well, I just wanted to be friends.
Yeah.
Stupid shit like that.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
So that's kind of like, so I've always kind of carried that. So you touch on the fact that I kind of get emotional on this stuff. I'm not afraid of that. It's just hard to, when you have these overwhelming scenarios, you know, that it's hard to get the words out sometimes. So again, talking to you right now is extremely, you know, you mentioned therapy earlier. To me, this is very therapeutic.
Great.
Thanks for giving me this venue.
Yeah, no, and we're going to probably continue here, but what I wanted to do, this part of the segment, there is a memorial here, right, in Seal
Yeah.
Beach. Can you tell everybody where that is at, where that's located?
So that's just north of the Seal Beach Pier, up on that little park plateau overlooking the beach above the parking lot,
Okay.
north of the pier. There's a nice little cubby that the Seal Beach Chamber of Commerce or the city of Seal Beach, a lot of folks were involved. You know, some of the victims' family members were involved. They put a really nice memorial up. And it's just a big heart, you know, and it's got a plaque with all of the victims' names on it, and a little bench kind of curving around, kind of shaped in a heart. And it's a nice place to go and reflect. Beautiful view of the pier and of you know, north side of the pier and the ocean, the beach. And so we go there all the time. I take my grandson there all the time, you know, and he always goes and says hi to Grandma Michelle. Hi, Grandma Michelle. And it's beautiful. The city did a great job with that, and we all appreciate that. All of the family. And I'm sure all the other families feel that way too. It's just a place to go.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a very tragic event, you guys, and I wanted to share this segment. Steve's got an incredible background, which we'll get to, but just for the folks for Seal Beach, I'm a Seal Beach guy. Our studios here in Seal Beach. I surfed here all my life. I know you did too.
Yep.
Seal Beach, the pier. Spent a lot of times at that liquor store.
You bet.
Taking our nickels and dimes, getting a candy bar, and ditching
yeah.
school, and
So we
going
got
to
our
the
hot
jetty.
tamales, man.
Yep, the hot tamales, the whole bit. So I really appreciate you, Steve, coming in and doing this segment. And then for me, it's just kind of want to kind of give back to Michelle and her family and friends and people and everybody that was involved in that tragic event. And I can't thank you enough for sharing that, Steve, and coming in and sharing that part. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything you want to say just to kind of close this segment out about it.
No, I mean, just we all feel so much on this subject, right? It never leaves us. It's never going to leave Seal Beach. It's just part of Seal Beach. You know, I'm sorry it happened, but they really rallied around. It just shows you the strength of the Seal Beach community and how they support and look after themselves and their citizens. And it's always going to be home. It's always going to feel like home to me, even though we live in Los Alamitos. You know, I raised my kids here, and yeah, there's really not much else to say on that from my perspective. But again, thank you for allowing me to talk on it.
No, let me ask you: Is there any recommendations you can give to somebody that's been through something tragic like this? What would you say? Seek therapy right away. Get comfort, family, friends. I mean, what was your? I don't know.
Run away from it. If you know, we covered that part. You know, I'm an old Marine, and I shouldered through it, and then I avoided real help because I was afraid what it was going to do to my career, and I just shouldered through it. But the longer I've gone without talking about it, and I'm talking to folks now, by the way. You asked me that earlier. Yes, I am, finally. But don't shy away from that pain, that grieving process, you know, and seek understanding. Talk to people. Just talk. Because we've all got questions, you know, why? How? Why? And through all that talk comes some level of insight, right, that helps us process it and get it through. It's a physical thing. And
Yeah.
if you don't address it, it's going to eat you up.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Steve, thank you for coming. Thank you for doing this segment. Really appreciate it. I want to have you back. I want to get into your NASA career, that's for sure. But I'm going to close this out, and I really appreciate you coming in, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Comment, like, share, and subscribe.